just a small part of you today, you know that I appreciate you. We've got a lot to talk about today, including one rapper that's decided to enter the sports game. And you've got a few. Jay-Z and his representational company. And then you've got a few rappers in sports because their kids are in sports. Snoop Dogg's son plays football. Diddy's son plays football. So you've got a few of them in there. And we're going to talk about one that you are familiar with, but probably haven't heard from in a while. I know I haven't listened to anything from him in a long time. So we'll get to that. We'll also talk about some college hoops, get into how destroyed my bracket is. Coach K, Duke, they lose, and Coach K ends up in an entire controversy scandal over the course of the weekend. Everybody's mad. Duke fans are mad. Coach K is mad. The young man involved in the incident with Coach K, he's mad. Everybody's mad. But before we talk about how mad everybody is, let's talk about the things that we do like, right? The social media platforms and where you can find us and we can find you. This is what it's all about. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That makes us happy when you check us out. And obviously, hopefully you're happy when we respond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Search Hot News Talk Radio. We are the first thing that comes up. And if you'd love to listen to us, YouTube, we stream all of our episodes live. This show, Clutch with Keon Rose, every weekday from 6 to 7, we are on live. And you can check us out on hotnewstalkradio.com and on the TuneIn Radio app in your favorite app store. So there you go. All of the things that make us happy. So we don't have to just talk about all the things that make people mad. Lil Wayne has decided to enter the sports game. Young Money Sports is Lil Wayne's sports representational agency. And it is official because he's signed his first client, one Reggie Northrup from Florida State University, is going to be the first person ever to be represented by Lil Wayne, also known as Young Jeezy, and his Young Money Sports company. And it got me to thinking about sports representation because it's a very important part of sports and also a part that we sort of gloss over, right? We talk about the numbers involved. We all know the numbers. When a guy gets signed to a 5-year, $20 million deal, like, we know the numbers. We know every quarterback that gets signed, we know how big his contract is. But a huge part of the contract being that large is the negotiation, and his agent is a huge part of that as well. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about how all of this actually works. The sports agents are, I don't want to say underrated, because we all know when an agent gets something wrong, we all know about it. Okay, for instance, if you're an NBA fan, like a big NBA fan, you know about John Wall and how John Wall fired his agent because John Wall he's not signed by any particular shoe company. Because here's the thing that your agent does. Your agent doesn't just represent you to teams. Your agent represents you to everybody that could possibly make you money. Okay? So it could be your agent represents you to Adidas, or your agent represents you to Nike, or Steph Curry's in commercials with Brita water filters. His agent did that. His agent went out and got him that endorsement, talked to Brita and said, you know what? Steph Curry is one half of the Splash Brothers. You know what else goes splash? Water. Water goes splash. This is a perfect combination. This is a perfect combination. And you know what? The commercial does look kind of cool. Like, it's not funny or anything like that, but it's Steph Curry being compared to water, almost like Bruce Lee and his quote about water. Like, it's cool looking, but his agent was responsible for getting him that particular endorsement. So your agent has to be a little creative, got to think outside of the box. Let's not jump the gun here. Steph Curry's agent has to take certain deals, right? Like, Steph Curry is being paid less money than he ought to be paid because his agent had to in the negotiating of his contract. Steph Curry's being severely underpaid for how good he is. I think we can all agree on that. because of his ankle injuries early in his career and how the team wasn't sure if his ankles were going to hold up long term, Steph Curry could have gone another way if he had another ankle injury, right? So the team didn't want to pay. His agent didn't have the leverage to get him more money, so Steph Curry's underpaid. And your agent that's all encompassed in what your agent does. Figuring out your leverage, figuring out your angle, and going, you know what? This is where your best advantage to make the most money is, which is why you see guys who you think, this guy is loyal. He's never going to leave this team, right? Like, you're never going to see Michael Jordan outside of a Bulls jersey. You would never imagine it. And then one day, 39-year-old Michael Jordan is a Washington Wizard. Why? Because Michael Jordan wanted to come back and play basketball. And no matter how good his agent wasn't going to get him a cent from the Chicago Bulls. They weren't going to pay him. Your team's got to be willing to pay you. And the agent, it's his job to find the team willing to pay you the most. So you see teams that are desperate with these horrifically bad contracts. And you usually find that big stars go to teams with the money and no sense, right? You don't find a lot of big name guys going to the Patriots. Why? Because the Patriots have the money, but they also have common sense. They're not going to pay everybody millions. Some of you just have to go. The Patriots would rather let a guy walk that doesn't have enough left in the tank, whatever the case is, whether he's not athletic enough anymore, whether he's just not playing well, whether he's just getting in trouble off the field, whatever the case is, they'd rather let a good guy go and sign somebody else for cheaper. Meanwhile, you look at teams like the Redskins historically, the Raiders historically, they're just bad. And they're bad because you sign a guy like Albert Hainsworth to a $100 million deal. Well, Albert Hainsworth's agent was the guy that said, you know where you can get the most amount of money? The Redskins. And do you know why? Because they have the money and they have no sense. So your agent is involved in that as well. He's looking for all the people. He's working the phones. He's working the angles. He's trying to figure out where he can get you the best deal. And then once you're at the negotiating table, most of these things are written in legalese, or to say the language of law, which is dull and boring and hard to read. When was the last time you actually sat down and read the terms and conditions agreements on a website that you've joined? When you joined Facebook, did you actually read it? Because I didn't. That's legalese. There's a reason why you can't read it. It's legalese. It's boring. You can understand it. You're an intelligent person. You look at this. If you actually took the time to read it, you would understand what Facebook is doing to you and what privacy things they're just violating left and right. But nobody has the time or the patience to sift through that nonsense and figure it out. So you just click yes. You just hit that little checkbox. You scroll down, you lie, and then you hit accept. You don't even know what the thing said. That's what your agent is good for, too. Usually your agent is proficient in law, in reading the language of law, and he goes through this boring stuff, and he just goes, no, the team's trying to take money from you here, and it's trying to take money from you here, and it's trying to take money from you here. You know what? Don't sign this contract. Do not sign it. You're going to lose money. Let's go over to the Raiders. They're going to get you more, okay? That's how this game works with the agents. And you're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We're breaking down kind of how agents work because they're the invisible movers of the sports world. You see the effects of what they do. You see the contracts being signed. You see a guy going from one team to another team, but you don't see the agent and what everything that he does, that how you can have James Harden going to be with Adidas. He signed with Adidas, but James Harden really does like Nike stuff. Like, James Harden is still wearing his Nike shoes, even though he signed a deal with Adidas, because his agent has convinced Adidas that James Harden is good to represent you. James Harden still might prefer something else. Your agent can't change you, but he can make sure that you're in a situation where Adidas is paying you a lot of money to represent them. It's your job at that point not to undermine what Adidas is doing by wearing their opponent's shoes. That's ridiculous. You know, there was a great story last week about Steph Curry being signed to Under Armour. Under Armour, of course, they're coming up in shoe brands, but Nike's just got a gigantic head start on everybody. Adidas is great. Reebok is declining. And here comes Under Armour trying to get into the top. So what you've got to do, and if you're an agent, this is really great for you because you can try and get a lot of money from a company trying to prove themselves. So you go to a company, Under Armour's with Cam Newton, right? So Under Armour took a chance on Cam Newton. There was a lot of people who thought Cam could be a bust. Cam might not actually turn out to be any good in the NBA, in the NFL rather. And they took a chance on him. Cam turns out to be super Cam, spectacular, ridiculous. He's great on camera. He's an incredible athlete. He's fun to watch. He says a lot of stuff that draws a lot of attention to him and Under Armour. It's perfect, right? Perfect conditions. With Steph Curry, it was a little bit more risky. Under Armour wanted Steph Curry. Steph's agent wanted to go somewhere else. So here's a case of a company trying to get the attention of an agent. This is what Under Armour did. Kent Bazemore plays for the Warriors. And Kent Bazemore is like a below average NBA player. He comes off the bench. He's very good off the bench, but he's not starting for anybody anytime soon, right? And Under Armour just started giving Kent Bazemore stuff. They signed him. They gave him stuff. They gave him billboards in his hometown, free shoes, everything. And Kent Bazemore is a talker, right? He's a loud guy. He's got a lot of personality. Nice guy, from what I understand. Kent Bazemore is in the Warriors locker room talking to Steph Curry and Klay Thompson going, you guys need to sign with Under Armour. They're taking care of me. And like Kent Bazemore knows how good he is. Like he knows he's not the greatest NBA player ever. Under Armour is taking care of him. And so by Kent Bazemore just yakking away, it got Steph and his agent's attention, and they turned their direction to Under Armour, where the negotiations happened. And now Steph Curry is with Under Armour, and now that he's getting huge because of his abilities that were not highlighted immediately early on in his career, the gamble is paid off for both Curry and Under Armour. And so you see a little bit of the threads of how this works behind the scenes. And it's interesting to me that Lil Wayne has decided to start this because he is the second rapper to do so. He is the second. Jay-Z obviously is the first. Jay-Z got to Kevin Durant, and they were able to sign him and work with him. So now Kevin Durant's going to be a free agent next year, and we're talking about Kevin Durant being obviously the most sought after free agent of next year. I don't think he's leaving Oklahoma City. Like I understand that there is a belief among people in other cities. My hometown, Washington D.C., the Washington Wizards, being one of them. Okay. By the way, my dad was in the Army. I moved around a lot. I have a lot of hometowns, but the Washington D.C., the Washington Wizards are the team that I root for. They think that they could get Kevin Durant. They can't. The Lakers think they can get Kevin Durant. They won't. He's staying in Oklahoma City, you guys. Like I understand what you want, what you're looking for. He's staying in OKC. He's staying. He's not going anywhere, and they will be negotiating with Jay-Z and his team of people. Okay, that's just how that is. But it's interesting to see the cross promotion, like the empowerment of Jay-Z and of Lil Wayne and a lot of other people in the popular eye. Because it used to be, right, you did your one thing. You stayed in your lane. Like there's having multiple abilities has always been great. You had the actors who could sing and dance back when musicals were bigger in this country and quite frankly in the world. They were bigger, and so you had athletes, you had music stars, you had actors, you had athletes, but you usually stayed in your lane. You didn't do a whole lot else outside of performing if you were a performer. If you were an athlete, back in the old days, before you started making millions of dollars, you did other things, but you did other menial jobs, right? Like the offseason, the guys that used to play in the NFL in the offseason, they would play in the NFL, and in the offseason, they would be construction workers and do really blue collar jobs because you weren't being paid millions. When the season was over, you need to find another job. And now that guys are being paid millions of dollars, and the NFL is worth billions on billions. You have a situation now where guys tend to stay more in their lane, but you do have some folks branching out, right? Quarterback, Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has a record label. He likes music. He wants people to listen to music. Aaron Rodgers has a record label, and I think that's interesting. Jay-Z, we talked about him. He's got the sports agency. Jay-Z also was a part-time owner of the Brooklyn Nets. Once he started his sports agency, he had to give that up. You can't have both. You can't represent a team and have an agency that allows you to represent players. You could get yourself cheap deals and all these things, and conflict of interest there is ridiculous. So obviously you can't have both. But he also is part owner of a music streaming service called Tidal that's supposed to compete with Spotify. And you see guys like Jamie Foxx. He acts, but also he's singing the national anthem at the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. So you're seeing people branch out into all these different places and doing all of these different things. And I find that endlessly fascinating. You look at a guy like Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp's got a band. Okay? The Hollywood Vampires or something like that. I don't know. I haven't listened to the band, but from what I understand, he's got a bunch of good musicians in the band. It's supposed to be this super band because of the talent in the band. Jay-Z's sports agency, by the way, is called Rock Nation Sports, and he's representing a lot of people in the sports world. Mentioned before, Kevin Durant. I know that he's got a few baseball players under him, and I'm looking it up right now because I just don't know off the top of my head all of the people that Jay-Z represents. And it's interesting because you're seeing rappers break into this place that usually you're Drew Rosenhaus type guys. You're a little bit audacious, but you're still grounded in law. You've got a law background. People know you because you're an agent, not because Jay-Z makes music. Oh, also he represents people. I mean, he's got Robinson Cano, CeCe Sabathia, Jonas Cespedes under him, Des Bryant. I'm just naming the names that you'd recognize. Todd Gurley from the University of Georgia, now playing with the Rams. So he's got a lot of people. Skylar Diggins in the WNBA, Wilson Chandler, Willie Cauley-Stein, who played at Kentucky. You've got people. And he's representing boxers, Miguel Cotto, Andre Ward. Kevin Durant, obviously, mention him. So he's got a lot of big names underneath him. This isn't anything to shake a stick at. And I think, honestly, you've got an extra advantage in doing so because you can use the fact that people know there's a lot of respect for Jay-Z musically. If you listen to Jay-Z, you're more inclined to listen to what he has to say when he comes to you and says, I'd like to be your agent. You might actually sign on that particular dotted line and feel like maybe Jay-Z's not going to rip you off because you know that he's got a lot of money already and he doesn't need more. It's an interesting duality of jobs. And the crossover there is that you're a pop culture icon. So you've got your free publicity. You've got your free representation already. You don't have to advertise yourself too much in a way that a Drew Rosenhaus probably would have to. Even though he's great, obviously, and he's had a lot of big name people underneath him. And it's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible to see that. And I'm wondering, because Lil Wayne has got a different thing going on, right? Lil Wayne was at one point considered the greatest rapper. And some people would probably still have him there, but those are huge, diehard Lil Wayne fans. And Lil Wayne himself, he kind of fell on hard times for a while. He had the drug problem, the codeine syrup issue. And so he's back from that. And I'm wondering if his name still carries the weight to draw big names in. He's got Reggie Northrup, but Reggie Northrup's not a big name. He's not even the biggest name in this draft, in the NFL draft. But I'd be interested in seeing if a few other guys would be interested in doing that. You've got college basketball players now declaring for the NBA draft, if that's going to be something that they're interested in going down that path with Young Money Sports. I have no idea, and it'll be crazy to see that going forward. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. And I've got a rant about Coach K coming up because He's a great basketball coach. Nothing's going to take away from that. I have no problem with him. But what he did over the weekend, ridiculous. More Clutch with Keon Rose next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business, and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
We're going to kill them all. We're going to kill them all. Let them cough. Let them wheeze. Let them sneeze. We're going to kill every one of them.
We're going to stop you dead in your tracks. Black mold has been known to mimic ailments such as asthma, emphysema, and other ailments that affect the well-being of your body. Black mold is the silent killer. Fight back today with a free estimate from PuroClean. The paramedics of property damage is PuroClean. Call 875-6136 for your free inspection and estimate today. And no, bleach does not kill mold. In fact, bleach is primarily made up of water and adds more moisture to your mold. The mold experts at PuroClean use proven products and state-of-the-art science equipment. They'll remove all traces of that deadly killer black mold. Call PuroClean now at 875-6136. Plus, your homeowner's insurance may cover it. Call PuroClean today at 875-6136.
We're going to kill every one of them.
Not if PuroClean has anything to do with it. Call PuroClean today at 875-6136.
Expect clear skies to continue through the nighttime. Chilly overnight, lows 40 to 43. For Tuesday, a beautiful day shaping up. Lots of sunshine, a little warmer highs into the upper 60s to near 70. For Wednesday, continued dry, a few late clouds, highs back into the lower 70s. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Hospice, providing compassionate support during life's most precious and often most difficult time. To learn more, their website, hamiltonhealth.com/hospice. And I, Gene 12, Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. A bill has moved from the State House to the Senate, which would increase the penalty for texting while driving. Currently, it's considered a non-moving violation, which is punishable by a $50 fine. But this new bill, sponsored by Republican Representative Ron Lawler from Bartlett, would make it a moving violation, which would require the driver to take an education course and 4 points would be issued against the driver's license. Your license is suspended if you get 12 points a year. The House voted 52-36 to pass the measure. The Senate will vote on the bill tomorrow. The Delta Queen has finished its restoration. It was towed from the scenic city all the way to Louisiana last spring, but now it's ready to come back if it gets a congressional exemption. The Delta Queen has been updated a little bit since last time we saw it. Now its boilers have been updated from World War I surplus all the way to new diesel-fueled boilers, which will run the steam engines. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose, that's me. And the NCAA tournament is a time that I am locked in to college basketball. Just watch everything, stay on top of everything. This past weekend, I did not do so and could not do so, and I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay with that because my girlfriend took me to Disney World, and I could not be happier. Like, going to Disney World, first off, that was my first time ever. So I'm a grown adult going to Disney World for the first time ever. I felt like I was 12. I enjoyed every second of being down there. And you know what? It's pretty crazy because I think about, like, you pass the ESPN Worldwide of Sports Center when you get down there. And it's, to me, there's such a huge conflict of interest with ESPN and being owned by Disney in a lot of ways, considering that ESPN's also got Monday Night Football and they've got college football, games that are so violent. And then it's on the same site as Disney, and you're just, I'm not saying it's confusing. I just think it's interesting. I'm going to lob that out there. I think that's interesting. But I had a great weekend going down to Florida, seeing family and friends, and going to Disney. I had a great time. And usually there is no birthday gift that tops college basketball for me. Like the NCAA tournament, March Madness is in and around my birthday. But I've got to say that one cleared the college basketball mark by a pretty significant margin. I'm happy. I'm happy. And if you ever want to go out to Disney, I have a pro tip for you. Easter weekend, I'm not saying it's empty, but there's significantly less people there than are usually there. Okay, you've got lines that everyone is telling me, oh, it's going to take you 2 hours. It's going to take you 3 hours to see everything. We went to 4 parks, okay, and we were in line for like 10, 15 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes. That's a quarter of the time. That's like a fifth of the time that a lot of these waits usually take. So, yeah, if you want to talk about happiness and joy, I was very happy. Okay, that was fantastic. We didn't wait for anything. Easter weekend, lock it in. If you've got kids that you want to take to Disney World, that is a good time to go. You don't have to wait for anything. And if you have the fast pass, you don't even have to wait 5 minutes. You just walk in. You walk in and sit on the ride. Think about that. If you've ever been to Disney, the last time you went to Disney, was it not hell waiting in those lines? And you're on the ride for like 15 minutes. So wait 15 minutes to ride 15 minutes? I'm down with that. Wait 2.5 hours to ride 15 minutes? I'm a little less on board with that one. You know. But overall, great experience. And I'm absolutely happy for my birthday gift. So shout out to my girlfriend, Miss J, who joins us and asks us questions occasionally. I want to talk about some college basketball, though, that happened over the weekend. Coach K of Duke, they get beaten by Oregon. And Coach K says something along the lines of, to one of the players, you're too good to be showing off like that. Like the player was showboating a little bit, kind of showing up the Duke players. And Coach K, obviously losing the game, feeling sore about it. Because, I mean, you know, college basketball coaches are sore losers. Everybody that's at the top of those kinds of games are. You kind of have to be that obsessive about watching game tape every day and avoiding losses like that. you have to be kind of a sore loser. So I'm not even mad that he's a sore loser, but, he says it. And there's a whole big thing on this show. We talk about it all the time about ownership. I don't have a problem with most guys doing most stuff. But if you do it, you've got to own it. If you do it, you've got to own it. And Coach K was like, you're too good to be showboating like that, is what the kid from Oregon said. And then Coach K denies that he said it. He denied that he said it. And so it becomes this huge, giant controversy of he said. And, the kid's like, look, he told me this. And then, of course, later, like 12 hours later or whatever, someone finds the audio, because that's how this always works, right? Somebody is always finding the audio. You see the scandal brewing and boiling, and then some nerd goes back through all the sound and goes, oh, there it is. So the audio comes out, right? And Coach K is clearly saying what the young man from Oregon said that he said. So now Coach K is apologizing and all of this stuff. Duke fans are mad because they're like, wow, you guys are just trying really hard to keep the story alive, which is not true. Because, if the audio comes out that he was lying, he was lying. That's the story. You're not trying to keep the story alive. The story came back to life. Like, it just reanimated itself. What are you going to do? It's the zombie apocalypse of stories. That's not true. Deflategate is the zombie apocalypse of stories. But this is a shortened version. Coach K, apologizes and everything like that. And then you've got people just on the other extreme, like, wow, Coach K is a terrible person. He's done this kind of thing before. That was an article on Deadspin.com. I cleaned up the title. There's swearing in it. Don't look it up if that's something that you're offended by. But Coach K's pulled this kind of thing before, is what the headline of the article was. It's like, okay, he's a coach, but he's an older coach. He comes from a generation where you didn't showboat. And I don't have a problem with either thing. I don't have a problem with showboating now, and I don't have a problem with not wanting other people to showboat, because that's the generation you came from. I don't have a problem with it. I didn't have a problem with it when Bryce Harper showboats, and I don't have a problem with Goose Gossage having a problem with Bryce Harper showboating. What I have a problem with is the person who believes that the showboating is wrong, especially in today's day and age when a lot of guys do. That person is just painted in this terrible light when they're a product of their generation. You have people you will meet in life who will say racist and sexist things. If that person's like 80, I don't know what you expected. Like, I honestly don't know what you expected. They're a product of that generation. Does it make the opinion right or okay? No. But you have to admit, when you grow up thinking something your entire life, being told like this is correct and having it constantly validated for always, and you make it to 80 years old, like you're fortunate enough, you're blessed enough to make it to 80, you're not going to change your opinions overnight because the rest of the world has suddenly decided that you're wrong. Okay? Coach K first off, he went to like West Point. He went to a place where there would definitely not be showboating now. Guys aren't showboating for Army and Navy. Not really. Like, look at the people who play for those teams. There's not showboating there now. There wasn't showboating there then, definitely. He's just a product of the places that he came from, and he's got a problem with the showboating. He doesn't like it when his own players do it. He doesn't like it when other players do it. And he told the young man this. The problem there isn't that he said it. So everybody that just wants to jump on Coach K and act like this tarnished his legacy somehow, back off, all right? He's a multiple tournament champion winner. He is arguably college basketball one of the greatest coaches ever. I don't know how many, like, I have him at number 2. I don't know how you can top what John Wooden was able to do with his UCLA teams, winning like 7 championships in a row. I don't know how you top that. Wooden's the greatest. But of the modern era, Coach K, definitely. It's hard to argue that, okay? It's Coach K, it's Tom Izzo. That's the list of our modern era. They're the 2 best to do it. You can't take that away from Coach K because of one misstep in front of the media, which we do all the time because we like to shame people in sports. It's our addiction. It's our obsession. When someone is shamed, we just love to do it. And here's the thing. John Ronson, and I quote him a lot because he wrote a book called You've Been Publicly Shamed, and he's done a great job of talking about how a lot of times when we shame people, especially on the internet, we have this gigantic, crazy pack mentality, and it's usually when we think that someone has misused their privilege, when someone has done something by overstepping their bounds. And in this case, Coach K misused his privilege by being more famous, older, being in a position of authority, being a coach. He misused his privilege by telling this young man what to do, and then he misused it again by lying, by thinking, you know what, he's Coach K, it's Coach K's word against this young man's word, we're not gonna fight it very hard. And so when it came out that he was lying, we just jumped on top of him. It's this, I'm not gonna say this is a non-story. It is a story, but what it isn't is the end of his legacy. You're just jumping to the other extreme. That doesn't make any sense. He's fine. And I'm sure Coach K is still a stand-up guy. Like, you've never lied before. Not condoning it, but that doesn't make any sense. We all do the wrong things sometimes. You apologize, you move forward. Coach K is still a great coach. Like, if I had a kid and that kid wanted to play college hoops and I had to choose where to send him, Coach K is on the list of people I would send him to, because Coach K is a solid disciplinarian, but he tries to learn the new generation. He tries to line up where young people line up. He gets on Twitter. He tries to tweet. It's funny. It's adorable. But, it's one of those things where with him, that he's trying his best to make sure that the young men underneath him are in society as good young people. And the fact that he lied about this shouldn't change any of that at all. You can't take away from what he's done for the game of college basketball and what he's done for all of the people that he's coached, that they all come back and say, I'm a better person because I played basketball for Coach K. You can't take that away because he lied one time about a thing. That's just unfair and wrong, but that's our sports culture. That's where we are today. Have you ever wanted to get the word out about your business, your enterprise, your establishment? Hot News Talk Radio is the place to do it. Make sure to call Hot News Talk Radio. You can call our number 423-800-8949 for rates. You can also direct message us on Facebook, on Twitter, and we'll get back to you with our rates. We will. Okay? Make sure. Hot News Talk Radio. You want to advertise? We can get the word out for you. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and I want to shift gears here a little bit to talk about something that has been, I'm not going to say it's been bothering me. Okay. It hasn't been bothering me, but like there's a lot of, the NFL has a lot of influence, let's say. Like, the NFL is really good at throwing its weight around behind stuff and being really good about making people change their mind. And not just the NFL. Hollywood does it too. Okay, big industries throw their weight behind things and just get stuff to change, and they get it to change immediately. So there's a law that got passed in Georgia. Some of you may know about it by now. It's been a news story also of the weekend. The act that would basically allow you to discriminate against other people based on their gender. That's basically the gist of the law, that if you're a church and you don't want to marry someone who is gay or transgender or lesbian or what have you, you can say no. You can say no, I don't want to do that. And if you're a business and you want to refuse service to such a person, you can say no, I don't want to do that. And that would be fine. Okay. The NFL and Hollywood stood up and said, no, we don't like that very much. And we'll be leaving you if you find that this is something that you want to, continue down. Because here's the thing with the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons have built a giant brand new stadium. Why do you build stadiums if you're an NFL team? There's only one reason why you build a new stadium. Because like fans will complain and groan and complain about an old stadium being a rundown, crappy dump. They will do it, but they will continue to go to the games because they are fans. There's no person that liked the Falcons that would just stop going to see the Falcons because the stadium is a dump. If Neyland Stadium were a dump, and I'm not saying it is, I said if it were a dump, you wouldn't stop going to see the Vols, okay? You would just have slightly cheaper tickets, maybe. You would still go to see them, right? Like, that's something that you have to do. You're a Vols fan. You've got to go see a game at least once. You know, if Daytona 500 were a dump, and I'm not saying it is, but if it were, you'd still go see a NASCAR race because you came to see the racers drive, right? That's something you've got to do. So teams don't build new stadiums for you. I'm sorry to burst the bubble there. They don't. They don't build it for you. They don't build it for me. They build it for money, okay? And like I said, you're going to go see the game anyway. So they're not building it for your money. You build a new stadium because you want a Super Bowl in your town. You want that Super Bowl revenue, okay? You want the NCAA Final Four in your stadium. That's what you want. That's why teams build these new shiny stadiums, because you could just renovate until the end of time, and most places would just be fine with that. Like, you could renovate over a summer, and over a few summers, you've got a stadium that probably looks back like new again. But no, you build these new stadiums because you want the events that they have, all right? You want that Super Bowl in Georgia. That's why Mercedes is building you a new stadium, okay? And the NFL standing to you and telling you, you passed this law, we're not going to be there. Doesn't mean they're going to take the Falcons out. What it does mean is you're not seeing a Super Bowl, Atlanta. You're not seeing a Super Bowl. So this law, whether you agree with it or not, I don't know how you feel about the fact that the NFL had so much clout. They changed the law in your state. The NFL and Hollywood have so much weight because Hollywood films a lot of movies in Georgia. Because Georgia's a nice looking place, it's a diverse place, so you can film mountain scenes in Georgia, you can film plain scenes in Georgia, you can film city scenes in Georgia, and still more or less be all in the same place. Like, it's a great place. They filmed a lot of the last couple of Fast and Furious movies in Georgia. So Georgia's a great place. They offer a lot of tax breaks for filming in Georgia. Is a lot of revenue that Georgia makes from Hollywood. And Hollywood was like, yeah, we're not coming back. Okay? Which, I mean, makes sense. You've got a lot of LGBT people in Hollywood, right? Like, you look at the Wachowski brothers who directed the Matrix movies. Both of them changed genders. They're now the Wachowski sisters, which is already like mind-bending for me to have to say out loud. But yeah, that you have that going on in Hollywood. They're not going to Georgia to film if you are going to have this law that basically says you can deny service to anybody based on sexual orientation. They're just not going to do it. And the NFL got in there too, and the NFL was like, look, no, I'm not having it. It's not going to happen. He just went all Stephen A on him. You know what I mean? That was the statement that the NFL released. I'm not having it. They're not having it, man. That's the statement that the NFL released on that. You can try and pass this law. So Nathan Deal, Georgia governor, he obviously vetoed the law. Because look, it's all fun and games until you start to lose money. That's the lesson that I've learned from sports. Nobody wants to lose money. Money. That's the key. You can trace a lot of decisions, not just in sports, by the way. Sports is a great place to see how transparent that looks. But this is just a lesson that you ought to learn in life. You can trace most things back to the money. Okay? Woodward and Bernstein, who discovered the Watergate scandal and broke the story on that with all the details, what did their confidential informant tell them? He said, follow the money. And Jerry Maguire said, show me the money. It's all about money. Okay, and you're looking at Nathan Deal here. Nathan Deal had this whole speech, and he was talking about how he didn't think that being a Christian meant that you had to discriminate and all of those things. And while I agree with him I just have this sinking feeling like that was not the reason why he changed. He decided to veto the law. Okay, and then you've got a lot of people obviously coming up to try and reverse the veto. I don't think that's going to work. And do you know why? Because it's all about money. Hollywood has a lot. The NFL has a lot. And they said,
I'm not having it.
They're not having it. That is a no-go. It's not about to happen. So I'm sorry if that was something that was one of your big things that you were going to stand on the table and say, no, I don't want this in my state. The money is going to tell you no back. And that's how things work, not just in sports, but in America. You just follow the money and you'll figure out where a lot of things go. I was watching with my girlfriend last night. We watched the movie The Campaign, and it is a silly movie. It is like too ridiculous for words. And honestly, I didn't there were huge just chunks of that movie where I was like, is this supposed to be funny? But there was one really interesting thing that the movie did well, which was that money runs politics. It does. Okay. Most decisions that people make involve money, right? And it's from the highest person up in government, from the highest person up in a corporation to the lowest person, to that person working multiple jobs and killing themselves to do so. It's for money. Okay. It's not always greed. And I don't think that you ought to confuse the two of those things, that not every time somebody wants more money, it's greed. You might need it. But if somebody wants more money, that's going to drive a lot of things, including fan reactions to stuff. If a guy leaves one place to go to another place for more money, right? He leaves a championship caliber team. Let's take Brock Osweiler because we talked about him a lot a few weeks ago. Brock Osweiler leaves the Denver Broncos, who just won a Super Bowl with the team that they have. The only difference in position, the real big difference in position, would be quarterback. Him. He would have the opportunity to helm the same team that Peyton Manning took to a Super Bowl, and Peyton Manning played terrible. He would have the opportunity to take that same team to a Super Bowl. For more money, Brock Osweiler jumped to the Houston Texans, who are a worse football team. Though I would actually argue by not that much, but that's a different argument for another day. The Houston Texans are a worse football team, but they offered Brock more money. And you know what the fan reaction to that was and what the critics said about Brock Osweiler? Why would he do that? Winning's not important to Brock Osweiler. Money is. A, so what? And B, why would winning not be important to him? Maybe, I mean, like we take all of Brock Osweiler's other things that he could have considered and just chuck it out the window. Like Colin Cowherd is the biggest guy on that. Like winning is not important to Brock Osweiler, and that tells you everything you need to know about Brock Osweiler. Yeah, okay, maybe winning is not the most important thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that money is also. We're just going to jump on the money train because we're mad that he had an opportunity to do that. Maybe building his own legacy and leaving the shadow of a John Elway and Peyton Manning is a good enough reason for him to try to go somewhere else. Like, I don't want to try and build after Peyton Manning and then what? I go 3 or 4 seasons without a deep playoff run. Say the Broncos make the playoffs for the next 4 years and they lose in the first round. You know what we're going to talk about? Man, he's not doing as good as Peyton did, even though he might be putting up better numbers than Peyton ever did, because Peyton was old and broken by the time he got to last season. Okay, Peyton Manning was being held together by twine, gum, silly putty, and a couple of paper clips. That was what was holding Peyton Manning together, and we're going to jump down the throat of Brock Osweiler. It doesn't make any sense. It's hardly fair.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect clear skies to continue through the nighttime. Chilly overnight, lows 40 to 43. For Tuesday, a beautiful day shaping up. Lots of sunshine, a little warmer highs into the upper 60s to near 70. For Wednesday, continued dry, a few late clouds, highs back into the lower 70s. This forecast is brought to you by Hamilton Hospice, providing compassionate support during life's most precious and often most difficult time. To learn more, their website, hamiltonhealth.com/hospice. And ICE 1412's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Don't know what happened there, but it's like I said, it's hardly fair. But we're gonna do what we're gonna do with that, and just judge guys based on the amount of money that they're making. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose, AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Thank you for joining me today, making me a part of your day. You know I appreciate you. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as hotnewstalkradio.com and the Bloom Sky app. Remember, stay clutch.
Shake, shake, shake it at Five Guys Burgers and Fries. The most delicious and unique milkshakes.
How about